Hey, what to work on today?
My body. Can I have my body? Make me a body. Where's my body? I want my body!
Hello everyone, this is B-Belt Dan. Y'all have seen me make a couple of puppet heads on my channel and y'all really liked those. But ever since the very first episode, y'all have been requesting that I make a body for them. So I've decided to go ahead and grant you your wish. Y'all have asked and I am definitely going to deliver. So in this episode, I'm going to make a puppet body. But not just any puppet body, I'm also going to make a puppet body for Slappy. You've already seen me make his head in another episode, but it was due to a challenge is to try to make it as cheaply as possible, no 3D printing and no special thing, something that you could find around home and not break the bank out of it. So I'm going to do that exact same thing with his body, is I'm going to make a body using the cheapest method possible, but still having a good, decent result at the end. So, without any further ado, here we go, Slappy's body. Okay everybody, let's go ahead and get this started. As you can see, I'm going to use cardboard, and that is to try to keep the budget down as much as possible. I'm using Slappy's head, there he is, as reference so I can get the size down. Cardboard, it's relatively free. You can find it almost anywhere, but also the best thing about it is that if you end up messing up with the dimensions, you can always cut some away or just get some new cardboard and add it and just redo the project all over again from where you messed up. So I'm kind of going through, sketching it out, using some rough measurements, trying to get a good scale on how big I want the body. And these are his shoulders, bringing the head back in for reference consistently. And you can always use something else other than cardboard. You can use plywood, you can use other types of thinner, lighter type of woods. You can use some, what is that polyvinyl board, several different options that you can have here. So I'm cutting this out, and let me go ahead and give you a little bit of advice. Always make sure that you have a sharp knife with you. Sharpen your knives. This would cut a lot easier if, one, I had a cutting mat, so I'm not scared of cutting into my wood table here, and two, if the knife was actually sharp. So I try to jag it and push through this, but I cut out one side, flip it over, and use that as a template for the other side to make sure that his shoulders are symmetrical. And once again, trying to cut through this with a dull knife. Sharpen your knives, everybody. You want to have those knives sharpened. It'll be a lot easier to cut. But I have the side taken out, pairing it with the head, and I'm getting another piece of cardboard. And if you look here, the cardboard is in a different orientation. One sheet that I cut out, the lines are going, let's say, vertical, up and down. Now, this other sheet that I'm using, that I'm going to be cutting out of, I have it to where the lines are going horizontal. They're going the opposite or perpendicular to the other lines. And the reason of about why I am doing that, here I am using scissors because I didn't sharpen my knife again. But the reason about why I'm doing it is kind of like get a plywood effect to add strength to that cardboard. Plywood is strong because each layer has it to where the grain is going in a different direction from the layer before it. Same thing with the cardboard. I cover it with a bunch of glue, make sure I get every single square inch of that loaded up as much as I can, and I'm going to ply those together, put some weight on it and let it dry, and that is going to add a lot of strength because this body is going to be supporting the head, and with you inside moving that head around, you're going to put some tension on that body, so you want it to be strong. Here I have the upper portion and the lower portion of the shoulders and the torso. We'll go ahead and call it, or the hips. Let's call it the hips. I checked once again to make sure the hole is big enough for me to put the head in to work on it. And now I need to go ahead and start putting or creating the design of the body or the structure of the body. Now, to support the weight, I could use wooden dowels, but you may not have access to the wood. You may not be able to cut the wood, or you probably can't afford the wood. The dowels are cheap for whatever reason. So I'm going to show you how to do it out of cardboard. I'm just going to take these cardboards. We're going to cut it into some strips as you see here. Once again, Daniel, remember, sharpen your knife before you do something like this. And I'm going to score. I'm not cutting all the way through, but I am scoring it into thirds. And from that, I'm able to bend it into a triangle shape. This triangle shape is going to be very strong. You'll be able to support a lot of weight, more weight than a lot of other shapes. And it's a lot easier to make too. So I just do that times 4. And I'm going to use that as the support structure that combines the hip to the shoulders, and it's going to help give the puppet's body shape. As mentioned before, you can always use wooden dowels. You can use possibly maybe a bunch of toilet paper rolls, if you really need to go lightweight. Another reason about why I'm not using wood is because wood's going to add weight to it. I want to try to keep this as light as possible in case you may want to walk around with it. You don't want to walk around with a lot of weight, but it still needs to be strong because this is going to be supporting the weight of the head and you moving around and the body and the clothing. You want it to be kind of sturdy, so it's load bearing, but at the same time it's giving you the shape of the body that you want. So checking to make sure that I have enough space between the back to reach my hand in there. And now we're going to be working on the skin. I am once again using good old trusty cardboard, using one of those wooden dowels to kind of go ahead and pre-score and bend it. If you can see that I'm bending it against the grain, I wanted the grain to run that way. Actually, I don't know why I wanted the grain to run that way. I just decided to pick on that, but I'm using this as the skin on the outside after I burned my hand a couple of times on that hot glue. It's not called hot glue for no reason. It's hot, so be careful when you're using it. But I use that, and you can always substitute anything else. You can use some half-inch foam if you want something a little bit lighter. You can use cloth. Once again, you can also use maybe the poly corrugated boards. You can use just about anything that is flexible enough to move around it. I am using cardboard because it is pretty stiff, so if I pick them up, the puppet by the body or slap it by the body doesn't want to cave in, or smush in like foam or cloth probably would. But it's going to also cost you a little bit more money. Once again, cardboard's free. So I take a look at the body and it looks going pretty good. Just make sure that I got all the seams. Now I'm trying with the head on. Looks okay. At this point in time, it looks like the body might be just a little bit too wide. And this is what I was saying about the beauty with cardboard. If it's too big, just cut some off of it. So I cut a 1-inch strip all the way around it. Just kind of shrink it in just a little bit. Just super glue that back together. Cut another hole inside it. And as you can see, it looks like it's a little bit more, the scale's a little bit better towards his head. Now from here, what I am doing is I'm cutting out some strips to kind of contour the shoulders. That was a seam that I forgot to show you, but I just take the strips and glue them on to the shoulders with a slight curve, and I use some cardboard to, kind of a half circle cardboard that I glue in to kind of keep the shape. And here we are with the hands. I am using, once again, trusty cardboard for at least the outline of the hands to keep the hands into kind of a natural, relaxed shape so they don't straighten out. I'm using some super glue. Or not hot glue, I'm sorry, hot glue. I just bend it into the shape that I want, put in a load of hot glue, let it cool down, and that hot glue will keep that hand bent, as you can see, in the shape that I'm wanting it. But to kind of flesh out the whole thing, going back to good old trusty paper mache. This is the same technique that I used to make Slappy's head. I just take some toilet paper and some good old-fashioned paper mache glue, which is flour and water, a 50-50 mix, maybe a little bit more water because I kind of like mine runny. Dip the toilet paper in there, and if you dip it in, it almost works just like clay. If you just dip the paper in, it has some malleability to it, but if you was to shred up the toilet paper beforehand, you get a lot better result. But if you can afford clay, use clay to make the hands, or use other things. I was actually planning on using some silicone to make some silicone flexible hands with some metal inside it, but some of y'all might not be able to have ability to do that. Once I have the hand fleshed out, or meted out at this point in time, now I'm fleshing it out using some brown paper that I've had laying around. This is to kind of get a skin, because that toilet paper mache can get a little bit porous when you're trying to paint it. You could always forego this by using some primer first, but I decided to go ahead and try this process out, and it kind of works. It smooths it out a little bit, but you still see it's paper mache. But if you don't like the paper mache look, and you don't want to you just put more time into it and you'll get a better result. Or you could just, once again, fork over the money and you can use clay instead and get a much better result. But in a pinch, paper mache, as you can see, works. I just go ahead, now I'm take time to go ahead and paint it. I will admit I got a little lazy at this point and I didn't put much time into painting. I just put on a flat base store-bought flesh tone. It was pretty close to a flesh tone that Slappy has in the movie. I didn't go in and put in details with any lot texture. If you want yours to look better, put some more time into it, into painting it, into molding it and crafting it. But if you have to buy paint, you can just buy just one deal of paint and get a pretty decent result, rather than buying a whole bunch of paints. Once again, if you want to keep your budget down. But the result didn't turn out too bad. From a distance, it doesn't look like paper mache. Up close, you can tell it's paper mache, but it's paper mache. And now we're moving on. Oh, goody. Here's a part of my little crafting skills that y'all probably never seen before, and that is me sewing. I don't do this too much on camera because I am not very good at it. I am still practicing and learning. What I am making here are the arms and the legs. I found some real cheap white cloth that I got at a thrift store. This was about 50 cents for about a yard, a little under about a yard, but that was more than enough. I just take what I think I need for the circumference of the arm, and I sew it, flip it inside out to hide the seam, and I run another seam along the middle. That's going to be the elbow. I rinse and repeat that 3 more times for both arms and both legs. And now it is time for me to go ahead and fill it. I am using Polyfill that I got from a craft store. You could use anything from newspaper, you can use regular paper, you can use toilet paper, you can use old clothing, and I'm also throwing beans in there. Now this is completely optional. The beans was like about $1.50 a bag at the store. I am using this to kind of give the arms and the legs weight, so when you're moving it around, there's actually some weight behind it, so it moves a little bit more like an arm. You'll see a little bit later. So I fill that up with like a third of the way with polyfill, a third of the way with beans, and then about not quite a third, but maybe more like 1/4 of the way with more polyfill, just to kind of prevent the beans from moving around. And I zip that in because I don't want any of that stuff spilling out, because they might be magic beans, and I don't want a beanstalk growing in my yard. Uh, so I just zip it up, and I repeat on the other side and do the same thing on the legs as well, except with the other side where the hand's going to be, I don't fill it up as much. Once again, polyfill, beans, and more polyfill, but I need to have some space in there to fit the hand in. And once again, the beans, you could use other things for weight. That's strictly optional. I decided to do it once again for better movement. So I take the hand that I made and I try to fit it in. See if I can get it to squeeze inside there. And I use super glue to hold it in, the super or hot glue. Hot glue, not super glue, hot glue. Super glue would probably work, but I don't want to stick my fingers together. I'd rather burn them. But it works out well. So I go ahead and move it around a little bit. And once I get that done, it is time for me to go ahead and stick it onto the body. I have both arms on, and as you can see with that little extra weight, as I move it around, it actually has weight. It bends in that elbow. It doesn't want to bend in the upper arm, lower arm. And when I drop it, it actually has weight. It moves realistically. Going towards the end of this build, I am now making the feet. If you have some old shoes, you could just use some old shoes and just glue the legs onto the old shoes. I didn't have any old shoes, so I'm kind of making some shoes out of cardboard here. Uh, I'm eventually going to probably try to use some spare leather that I might have laying around to make some shoes, or some, well, it's not leather, it's fake leather, but you could use foam, you can use cloth, you could, if you want to really, if you're under budget or under time or you're really pressed, you can just paint it. It does a pretty decent look. You could put in some duct tape. That's what my son recommended to do. So now here it is. I am gluing a cardboard cylinder to the leg, and I'll be taking the leg and gluing that onto the feet. And then from there, I'm just going to just attach that onto the body, as you'll be seeing here in just a few minutes as I get that glued on. There we go. Test the feet, moves around good, has some good weight. I put that onto the body, and everything starts to kind of come out Millhouse, you probably say. Go ahead and throw the head on and try it out. Now, this puppet is designed to mostly be sitting down, kind of like how a lot of these ventriloquist puppets usually do, and you operate it from the back. It doesn't stand up. But you could kind of hold him up and make it look like he's standing up, but he doesn't stand up on his own. So now all I got to do is make the clothing. I'm deciding to make the clothing rather than buy it. But if you decide to have the money to or go out and buy the clothing, I would recommend that you design the puppet based on the size of your clothes. Otherwise, you got to do this. But I'm not going to show you how to do this because I have no idea what I'm doing. Nope, yep, I really don't. So I'm going to spare you me making all of this. And I was going to just jump to a shot of the finished puppets. All right, everyone, and here we go. We got a complete Slappy puppet, head, body, and all. So what do y'all think about it? Now, just like with making the head, the goal wasn't to try to get the best results possible, but the best results possible while keeping it under a budget. So I did the exact same thing with the body. So the body is not the best that I can do, but it's the best I could do within what I would call a very reasonable budget. And as I mentioned all throughout this episode, you can vary the results by spending a little bit more money here and there on different types of materials or what have you. For this particular project, I mean, I had to say it's almost free, if not completely free. If at most, I may have spent a total of $10 on buying some additional stuff that I needed, but a lot of the stuff was stuff I've already had or stuff that I was able to get for free. I just decided to spend a little bit more money on the clothing so I could try to get it a little bit more accurate to the actual look. In fact, my youngest son wanted to go a little bit further with that, accuracy, that he actually took the time to write this little piece of paper with some magic words on it. I've never read the books. I don't know what this has to do with Slappy, but I think it says Karu Mari Odana Loma Corano. So I don't know. He told me that it belongs in his pocket, so I'm going to put that in his pocket right there. So, what do y'all think? Do y'all like it? Is this something that y'all want to go ahead and try? Is this something that y'all want to go ahead and try to do? Would you like for me to try something else? If y'all do, please leave a comment down below. But until then, I want to say this is B-Bell Dan. This is Slappy's body for his head. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.